Welcome to this new full editing demonstration of this product photo, what I'm calling a product photo of this car, a really amazing shot from wesaturate.com. So this photo is something that is a little bit different, and my goal was to edit it in a style that would be for some sort of advertisement, commercial, something like that, to give it a little bit more of a fashion style. So we're not just going for a traditional edit with punchier contrast. We're really going for some cool, interesting, eye-catching colors. So if you want to follow along, make sure that you open up the product photo shot and let's dive right in. So here's the photo we're going to be editing. The first thing I'm going to do is crop in just a little bit, just so we can get a little bit closer to this car. I am still choosing to use the aspect ratio of the original photo. If you are choosing something, maybe you want it to be like for the background of a mobile phone or a mobile device, something like 16:9 might be kind of cool. I think that is a little bit too skinny for myself, so I'm just going to choose as shot, bring it in just a little bit, something like that. I am still centering the car. If you want, this might be a cool option. Actually, for this edit, since I've already done it the centering way, I'm going to edit it like this in case it was some more advertisement where you have some text up here on the top and maybe a little bit of text on the bottom. Next, I'm going to play around with the exposure. So I'm going to bring down the blacks. I definitely want the blacks of the car to pop a little bit more. Same thing with the shadows. I'm going to bring down the shadows a little bit more. Overall exposure looks pretty good, so I'm going to leave that as is, but I am going to boost the highlights and the whites just a little bit, creating a little bit more contrast. All right, so the next thing I want to do really is play with the color. That's what's most interesting in this photo to me. And the way that I'm going to do that is with split toning. Now, just to refresher, the way split toning works is that you are actually adding color to either the highlights or the shadows. So to do that, first you need to add saturation by dragging these sliders up. And you can add more or less saturation however you want. And then choosing a color by dragging the hue to the left or right for either the highlights or the shadows. You can also open up the color picker, and here you can drag up and down or around the colors themselves for the highlights. And when you drag down, you decrease the saturation slider. When you drag up, you increase. And you can drag left or right to pick a specific hue. So, for example, maybe you have a color palette in mind. Maybe you want something that is this bright cherry pink color, and then the shadows, you want something blue. So you might have a certain color palette in mind, and this is one way to quickly and easily find those colors. Now, looking at this, I'm already confused at what colors I picked. I believe in this original one, I was going for some sort of like Miami style coloring with some purples and yellows. And so for the shadows, I'm going to leave the shadows right there. And then for the highlights, I'm going to start with the yellow that they have right there, but then drag it up just a little bit up there. Now notice though, I have my yellow up here, I have my purple down here, but it doesn't look like this shot. And maybe my yellow was a little bit more orange, something like that, but it still doesn't look the same as in this shot. Why is that? The reason is because the balance is off. Between the highlights and the shadows, you have this balance slider. If we drag to the left, what happens is the shadows get more power, get more of the color and the power of this effect. If I drag this all the way to the left, basically the highlights don't get much color added. If I drag it to the right, the opposite happens. The highlights get most of this effect, and the shadows get a little bit, but not so much. And so dragging this to the left, playing with the saturation, these are what I'm going to do to get colors that were similar to what I had in the original edit over here. Now you'll notice that these colors are much more punchy here. So what I can do overall is add some vibrance or saturation. So I'm going to boost the vibrance and saturation up here to get more actual color. You could play around with the saturation of the split toning as well, but I think in this instance, I think just using overall saturation is good. Now, If you don't want overall saturation or vibrance, you can also pinpoint colors that you want to add saturation to. So we can add saturation to the oranges, the yellows, the reds, and maybe the purples. And the reason why you might want to do that instead is so that you don't add too much vibrance or saturation to the color of the car itself. And then maybe just boosting just a little bit. Looks good. Now, a couple things that I want to do. I want to focus our attention on the car a little bit more. So I'm going to add a sort of blur radial filter. So selecting radial filter, making sure everything's set to 0, and then just clicking and dragging around this car, something like that. Pressing O to see what my selection is, something like that. Turning off with O, and then just dropping the sharpness, then also dropping the clarity. Now you can make it even super blurry or a little bit not as blurry with that clarity slider. And you can also, here might be something cool to play around with exposure as well. If you want more of a vignette or just making it lighter. And this is actually a little bit of a different edit than I did previously, but I like this because this gives you the chance to add text up at the bottom that stands out a little bit more. So that was the radial filter. Next, I'm going to use a brush filter to brush the car and really make the car pop a little bit more. So I am going to leave auto mask on, and I'm just going to basically draw over our car, turning on O or our selected mask overlay down there, that checkbox right there, so that I am seeing what I'm selecting. The auto mask feature right here, it just helps you to not select outside of the edges of the car. It can detect the edges pretty well. Now, if there's parts of the car that you definitely want to include that weren't being included with the mask, you might want to just paint over them without that selected. But when you get close to the edge, like I just did right there, whoops, I selected past that edge. So I'm going to redo that. Letting go when I am happy with the selection I made, something like that. Cool. So now turning off the mask overlay so I can see what I'm doing, I'm going to drop the blacks, really increasing the contrast of this again. Maybe increasing the dehaze can add some more detail to the car, increasing the clarity just a little bit. Now when I do that, it actually adds more contrast, so might bring the blacks up a little bit. But notice if I turn off clarity, and then I turn it on, and then same thing with dehaze, turn it off, turn it on, it makes it pop, it makes it stand out just a little bit more. If you don't want to add contrast like that, you can just add contrast with this contrast slider. Now I don't want to go too far, so I'm going to turn that off. But really, I'm pretty happy with that. Might desaturate just a little bit. Something like so. Cool. So now we can turn this off, on and off, and you can see what happens. It just makes it pop even more. So this is looking pretty good. Let's look at our original edit, which is a little bit different. Definitely got some more purple, definitely got some more orange in there as well. We can add some more of this kind of look like that if we want by using a brush. So let's go ahead and create a new brush. We're going to turn off auto mask. We're going to make it pretty big. We're just going to brush in this V right here. Pressing O to turn that on so I can see what I'm looking at. That's looking pretty good. Now maybe I want to add a little bit of warmth up there. A little bit of saturation. Maybe tone down both of those. And then I'm going to turn down the density and just brush the edges just a little bit more to have it blend in. Maybe just brush a little bit down here just to add some of that color. It's looking pretty good. And then we could continue to do the same thing with brushes to add more purple, Or we could just go back and see with our split toning again. Sometimes it's good to take a second look at it and see what split toning might look like if we increase the shadows there. Now, notice one thing. When I'm playing with split toning now, it's not really affecting the background. It's mostly affecting the car, which is maybe a style you like. But the reason is because we increased the exposure of the outside area using this radial filter. So if we go into this radial filter and we bring back down the exposure, you'll notice that as we do that, the background starts to get a lot more of that color from our split toning. So that's something to keep in mind when you play around with the exposure itself, that you might actually be hurting what you've done before with the split toning. So make sure that you're just aware of that. So if you do want the background to have a specific, or parts of the image to have a specific split toning effect to it, make sure that you balance that with how you adjust your exposure. All right, so this is just a fun way to edit this photo. We could go completely different with these colors, and it could be something really cool, kind of the opposite. This is sort of, again, another sort of Miami color combination, orange and teal or orange and light blue, a different style of edit, but this is where you can have fun with it. So I'm going to undo that because I don't like those color combinations. Let's go back to where we were. But for now, I'm just going to let you go. I'm going to let you play with this color combination in this edit. This is really a good example of where you can use split toning to play around and get some really, really creative images. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any other questions. Otherwise, we'll see you in another lesson.